From Flourish DX School, this is the Flourishing at School podcast. With mental health becoming a global priority, we are your partner for creating schools where students, teachers, and school leaders feel good and function well, becoming the best versions of themselves and contributing to a flourishing world.
Welcome to the Flourishing at School podcast. I'm Tamara Lechner. Each week, my co-host Jason Van Schie and I bring you the best practitioners, academics, and everything in between in order to inform best practice in whole school mental health. Jason, where in the world are you joining us from today, and what have you been doing to take care of your well-being since our last recording?
Yeah, again, I think this is going to be a running theme. I think we're going to be all over the world, the two of us. This time it's no different. I'm in Singapore, same time zone as Perth, which is great. So no jet lag, which I'm, really, really excited about. But yes, I'm in Singapore. In terms of my own well-being, one thing actually that happened just last week is one of my colleagues, who's actually co-host of the other podcast I do, Joelle, sent me a strength spot through our app. And we built this strength spotting feature, right? And it was all about how do you spot character strengths within other people, so that we can kind of help them to remove blind spots and help to reaffirm the things that we value about our colleagues. And I didn't expect that we would start using it ourselves, but I got one, and it wasn't ironic, or sarcastic, which is generally what Joelle would do. It was actually sincere, and I thought, that's really nice. And so, since then I've actually been using that strength spotting feature myself, and obviously it's great for the people receiving it, but, expressing that gratitude has benefits ourselves as well. So yeah, strength spotting is something I've been doing and really enjoying it.
I always love the language of strengths, and I'm sure we're going to be talking with today's guest about some of his strengths. I am so delighted to introduce Héctor Escamilla. I've worked hard, Hector, to attempt to say that right. Now, you are our first higher education guest, our first university representative. And I first met you, and I think Jason at the same time, at the conference in Texas. I think that was 2018, 2019. So Hector was at that time the president of Tecmilenio, and we're going to let him talk all about that because both Jason and I were so impressed with what he was doing there. And now he's moved on and he's the vice president of advancement for the sister university, which I'm going to call Tech Monterey because I am going to butcher the name, but Hector can say it for you. So welcome, Hector.
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you, sharing our experiences in introducing the science of well-being and happiness and purpose.
So, Hector, you've had quite the career in university land, as well as applying well-being within, an education system. So in 5 minutes or less, could you tell us a bit about that career?
Yes, I've been in higher education for 36 years. And I have the privilege of being invited as president of the university Tecmilenio. Tecmilenio is a university created in the year 2002. And it has grown very fast in Mexico. And I was invited as president in the year 2009. And it has grown all over the country. Back then we served 25,000 students from high school, college, and master's programs. And basically what we initiated in the year 2009, 2010 is redesigning the university. It's an interesting thing. Many people think about new education models, and we try to redesign the whole university, putting at the center of the university or stakeholders. This is very important because when it's like industry, when they forget about their customers, things go wrong. So we say, well, why don't we put our students at the center? Why don't we put the parents at the center? Why don't we put industry at the center? Because universities exist to serve our stakeholders, which means students, parents, and industry that pay the tuition of the students. We are a private, non-for-profit university in Mexico, And it's interesting when you do that, because you start thinking about what's important for them. And one of the things we see of the trends is industry hires people based on competencies. It's no longer that time when how much you know, because all the knowledge is available for free in many places. So what industry really values is values of people, the values, and also the competencies. What can you do? What can you solve? And also, and then you get hired. So we serve analyzing the industry. When we analyze the parents, the needs of the parents value education because of the investment. They expect the return on investment. They expect is that their children, they have a job after graduation, and they have the skills, to move around and to move free by themselves. So we say, okay, redesigning the whole university courses, all of them, based on competencies, is the way to go. So we redesign all degrees, all courses, to develop competencies and to develop skills that are attractive for industry. And then the other thing we did is, when you analyze the curricula of many universities in the world based on competencies, you realize that there are many courses that are not needed. And because it's not knowledge-based, it's competence-based. Mm-hmm. And basically what we found out that we could develop every single degree of the university, introducing a flexibility of 40%. So imagine that you were studying engineering and you could customize 40% of your curricula and customize selecting courses in humanities, courses in economics, so you could really personalize. And all the students in universities now were born in an environment where they can personalize everything, but not necessarily college. We analyzed the flexibility in many universities that range from anything from 12% up to 24%. We jumped into 40 because very responsibly designing on competence-based approach. And the third thing we say, well, so we have flexibility, we have a competence-based model for 100% of the courses. And we say, well, universities only last your college education for 4 or 5 years. But if you're going to live up to 100, the most important thing in life is not college. It is what are you going to do after you graduate, what is going to keep you motivated all your life. So we just say, if the most important thing in life is to be happy, why not design a university that will provide skills, competencies of well-being and happiness based on the science of positive psychology? So we introduce well-being courses across the curricula, well-being and happiness based on the science of positive psychology across the curricula and student activities. And then we came out with our vision, that is to prepare people with a purpose in life and competencies to achieve that goal. So positive people with a purpose in life, and positive people with a purpose in life and competencies to achieve it. So we believe that purpose in life is the most important skill that you may have in life, because that will raise to the energy that you need, the excitement of life, and skills that you need to accomplish what you want. And if we were able to introduce this in the period of college education, I think so. That's the redesign that we did back in 2012, and in 2013 we admitted the first generation. Back then we had 27,000 students. Today we have 60,000 students.
Wow.
We became a more attractive university because it was reaching the needs of the parents, the needs of the industry, and the needs of the young people. And today, 9 out of 10, they have a job on the day of graduation. So,
Wow, again.
so that's
Yeah.
a short story, but let me tell you, one of the things I feel proud is that we went and asked for help. So we went and find the best thinkers of the world in the science of positive psychology. And we are really grateful of these leaders in the world that help us greatly to identify how to do it, because we find great examples in K-12 education in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we've interacted with Martin Seligman, with James Pawelski, Tal Ben-Shahar, and many other great people in the world. So we have really been very blessed by the help of all these great leaders to introduce the science of well-being and happiness through the curricula.
Where were you in the early 2000s when I was doing my undergraduate in Australia? There's so many courses I think were probably very useless. It was all, like you say, knowledge-based, not competency-based. So, I think that's amazing.
I totally agree, because I finished my degree as an adult and I still was looking at the courses going, seriously, why do I have to take this? What does this have to do? And why can't I take that? So I think you've done a brilliant job. What I'm really interested to hear a bit more about, because you talked about purpose, and I think back to 19-year-old me and that, why am I here? What's my meaning and my purpose? Seems like a really big concept for kids that age and their parents to be thinking about. Can you give us some logistics of how you get them to understand this, rather than, okay, my purpose is to get a job and make money? Because I know it's more meaningful and much deeper than that. How do you do that?
So we have different attempts, okay? Because there is not really, one of the things that once I called Marty Seligman and I say, well, Marty, I'm nervous. We are launching this. Who may I ask? Who may I follow? And say, Hector, there is no one in the world doing it. But come to these meetings, and Marty was so nice to network Tecmilenio, me and colleagues, to other great leaders in Europe, United States, and Australia. And so basically, we came out to identify, first things, we were talking about well-being and happiness. Okay, that's the things that we were thinking. And because we believe that we have to introduce skills like the PERMA model of Martin Seligman, but at the same time, we found that we had to enrich Martin Seligman's model. It was not just positivity, engagement, positive relations, meaning, and achievement. We introduced also that mindfulness, and as well as physical well-being. And so we start building an ecosystem of well-being and happiness. When we talk about ecosystem, is that all participants of education in the classroom and at the university should participate. At the beginning, we say, well, let's introduce skills and well-being and happiness courses. 100% of the students take a well-being and happiness course. 100% of the students in every single degree, they take a course in positive organizations. Regardless of the degree that you take, 100% take that. But going back to, so we introduce also a profound knowledge on character strengths. And then as we start learning and getting deeper in this, we say, well, at the center, it should be the student, but at the center of all this, it should be the purpose in life of the students, that we will gather all the energy that you need to wake up every early to do everything you dream of doing, all the energy to seek and learn more from everybody and contribute to society. So it's not just my well-being, but it's also putting my strengths serving others. And when we mature the idea that it's not only my well-being, my energy, my positivity, I'm putting myself, my best self, and serving others, that's when we came up, this is more important and deeper, and this is purpose in life. All right. Now, a practical approach is like, so we have developed workshops with students to make them think about what they love, what they're good, or what their dream, and also share examples of people contributing with all their strengths to the world. So people start identifying young people. This is not like, but this is many people say, well, I am 30 years old, I'm 40. I don't know my purpose in life. That's very common. But that's because they didn't have an experience of thinking. We develop a workshop of 3 hours to start thinking about what are you good at, what are your dreams, what makes you happy, but at the same time is combining your strengths and your skills also and putting to the service of a cause, to the service of the community, to the service of the world. Then it makes sense to raise your view. It's not a short view. It is you have to raise and see and project your life and start thinking what will make you wake up with great energy to do the things that you like the most, things that you will do even without a pay, and to get you excited. And the degree is secondary. So we believe that it's more important to work in your purpose in life than even a degree. So it's different attempts that we did, and basically we end up with workshops. So 100% of the students that enter Tecmilenio, we do a workshop with them.
I want to come to that workshop. It sounds fabulous.
Yeah, we have great leaders there. And my colleague, Luis Gutierrez, he has even written a book about it.
Oh, yeah. What's the book called? I want to pick it up.
Purpose.
Purpose. There you go. Duh.
He's got it behind him. But Hector, it's so nice to hear you say that, and it's something that Tamara and I, decided on episode 1 that that's really what we wanted to get to. How do you create purpose and meaning in life? Because you did talk earlier about happiness and how important that was, and it's great to give oneself what makes them happy, but to what end? What's going to motivate them? What's going to make a difference in this world? And it's not about serving oneself; it's about serving one's community and making the world a better place. So the sooner we can connect kids in with their purpose, or even 30 or 40 or 50 or 60-year-old adults, then I think that's a recipe for flourishing communities.
And you know what? One of the things that Luis Gutierrez, the author of the book, and myself, we traveled to Adelaide and Melbourne and see these schools like Geelong Grammar, and St. Peter's. And we really admire the work being done there, because you see 6 years old, 8-year-old boys and girls talking about their character strengths. And it's amazing to talk to adults. They don't identify their character strengths. So with that education, our dream was to replicate that, but do it at a higher education level. And so it's been a great journey with people that also believe in this approach of the vision. We have to do a lot of training. So we brought the best ideas and developed a certificate in positive psychology, a certificate in positive organizations, and 100% of the employees. Let me tell you, this is a university of 60,000 students. We had 30 campuses across the country.
Wow.
So you have to replicate in 30 campuses. And the faculty are 100% are adjuncts, so they're not full-time faculty. It's a teaching university, what we're talking. And we had to develop a centralized certificate. So if you work in a university, you have to be certified. Otherwise, you wouldn't, we invite you to work, but you have to take. This is not this is not a voluntary thing. This is a mandatory thing. You want to work here, you need to be certified in positive psychology. You need to be certified in positive organizations, because otherwise it wouldn't connect to the ecosystem and to go around with the students. So today, if you talk to a student graduating, if you were interviewing a student, he will tell you, my name is Héctor Escamilla, my purpose in life is to, and they will say their line. So that's exciting to see how it works.
Yeah, I mean, Tamara and I both have our own kids, right? And I've got a 13-year-old son I've been working on for a while. And it's, I keep encouraging him, so how are you going to get better? And he's like, what do you mean, Dad? I'm like, I was good today. I'm like, no, but how are you going to be better tomorrow? And it's so funny, like this last weekend, he didn't pull out his PlayStation. So he's been really like obsessed with Rocket League, this computer game lately, and playing with his online friends. And he's, you get to progress up through different kind of ranks, and, there's relegation, promotion. And he said to me on the weekend, he's like, you know what, Dad, I just realized that, playing this game and trying to achieve that ranking for myself, isn't actually important. So I want to work on things that are important. Like, so he's interested in improving his fitness at the moment for basketball. He's, interested in, learning about coding, because I've said to him, hey, you don't need to go to university if you're competent as a computer programmer, and you can all of that information's freely available. If you're a computer programmer, you got a job when you leave university. So, he's now, he's starting to think about more purposeful activities rather than, just, engaging in meaningless pursuits.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Well, it's one weekend though, Hector. I'll just put it there. It's one weekend, so we'll see how long that lasts.
It's a good start.
It is a good start. Yeah.
One activity that ignited good thinking on this is that on the first semester there is a class of wellbeing and happiness that 100% of the students take. In that class, they have to interview someone they admire and ask them about their purpose in life. So they go interview, they record it, they document, and then they share. And so many people listen to the purpose in life of many people they admire. They could be from actors, from soccer players, and it could be politicians, it could be even their mother. And so it gets exciting to see when they travel, do the exercise, and they share, purpose in life of other people, and they start thinking about their own.
It reminds me, Hector, a little bit when we were all together in Texas. I think that was the time that Tiffany Schlane from Let It Ripple was there, and she was doing her character day video. And the question that she had asked all around the world was, who do you admire most and why? And I think that you've really connected into something tangible for kids, because they all have somebody they admire. Right. And you're so right that when they start to notice and get curious about the strengths of the people they admire and wonder why it is I admire that person, it helps them to kind of have a navigation tool for where they want to go, when maybe that big question of who are you and what are you going to do with this life is too much. But who do you admire? Who and why do you admire them? That seems much more manageable. That is a great tip. And I would say we know in our audience, we have schools wanting to build what you've built. Mm-hmm. What a great starting point for them.
And always, I'm no longer the president of Tecmilenio, but I say most of my colleagues now, they always happy to share their experiences, because we have been helped. Many people from Australia, from the United States, Canada, Europe, they always wanted to share. Even the people from Dubai as well, that they got excited about area of well-being and happiness.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do with the podcast too, Hector. Really, grow that community and put people in touch with each other. It's something that we've been able to do successfully with our other podcast. Created a great community around psychological health and safety. And this one is more focused around, the science of wellbeing within education. But Hector, you've been on quite the journey. Like you said, is it 36 years in higher education? And
right. In Tecmilenio, I was president 11 years. And
yeah. So quite the journey. So for I guess you mentioned earlier, you learned a lot looking at K to 12 education, and then looked at how you could apply that within higher education. But I guess for schools, to learn from you now, from universities, but also other universities, right, who are interested in the Tecmilenio journey. What's something that you would encourage them to ensure they build in order to have success in incorporating wellbeing into their education programs?
I believe that as an educator, the most important thing is culture. And let me rewind a little bit more. We have a model of transformation. Our model of transformation includes having a clear vision of what you want to achieve. So the vision of university is the beacon. Everybody should work towards the vision. And to communicate the vision of the institution, for everybody to get excited about the vision, that dream to achieve as a group, as a team. So we developed many, at the first earlier stages of this intervention, is to develop the vision, to share the vision, what's important to everybody, and get them excited about how the world might be a better place with a clear vision. And then the values of the institution is very important. What are our values? So this is at the center. And then in a larger circle is how do you get organized? So the administration of the academic institution is important. Who does what kind of departments, we develop an Institute of Wellbeing and Happiness to do research on these things. So it's not only to develop the courses, to develop the certificates, and to train the people. So that's the organization, the structure, and how we get organized. And then the culture. The culture is the most complicated, or more exciting than complicated, and it really demands to keep attention. And every year, if we talk about culture, culture is how things are getting done here. So when we develop this ecosystem, it means that the faculty have a role, the student activities were planned, aligned, the courses were designed and the faculty were trained to identify strengths in the students and to know themselves, and to conduct even concepts like Carol Dweck's growth mindset. How important is to just know the science of positive psychology, but also other concepts of fixed mindset and growth mindset in education, as well as other concepts like Richie Davidson from University of Wisconsin. So it's how to bring the best and to train, and also talk about manifestations of great behaviors, great achievements, and how people feel great at the university working every year. So every year, just to say, every year we organize a summit where we gather the top management, the 150 top management of the university from all over the country, and gather together and talk about culture. And also we have guests talking about areas of management, but also as well as well-being, happiness, and from people from all over the world. So we did that for 10 years. So as a colleague, you have exposed to the best thinkers of the world in the science of well-being and happiness.
Yeah, that culture piece is so important. And as you said, what you did was you started out with that vision. And then develop the strategy of like how you're going to achieve that vision, and it was obviously very clearly communicated and accepted by the people in the institution. And we often see that within schools, for instance, that there are some passionate few who are interested in this wellbeing stuff, they don't really have the full buy-in of maybe the exec and the leadership team and the other teachers. And it kind of is done, and teachers go, when's this wellbeing thing going to finish? So we can get on to the next thing. It's not really ingrained. It's not part of the culture. It's seen as like, this is a fad that's going to come and go. Whereas what you did at Tecmilenio, obviously, is going, well, this is how we're going to be successful. This is what a successful university looks like. And that growth in student numbers is testament to that, right? What was it, 27,000 up to 60,000? What you did was working, clearly, and it became a destination of choice.
Remember this, is I believe that you have to put the students first. One of the things that we have to be careful in academia is to be humble and to recognize that we're here for a purpose of the students, not for my ego, not for my arrogancy, that I am a professor, I have a PhD, you don't, let me tell you how to, It's very important to be humble and to say the most important person in a university is named student. Not necessarily me as president, not necessarily me as professor. The most important thing is the student. And putting everything to serve the students. I believe that's very important. That's part of the success. If you remember, Kodak was one of the most important companies in the world.
Yeah.
They developed the technology, but they didn't, I will say, they didn't work enough to seek their customers. And they're no longer the largest company in the world. Or you may compare other companies, General Motors, Toyota, there are different approaches. The culture in Japan is to serve the customers. The culture in many other companies to serve the owners.
Or the shareholders, yeah.
The shareholders, not the customers.
So
I believe it's important to say students first.
Yeah. So Hector, you've obviously had a lot of success, but clearly you can't be batting 100. There must be something that hasn't worked with all the different things that you've tried, because that's what happens, right? When you innovate, you learn, and you do fail sometimes, and you learn from those failures. So what's something that you tried that didn't work that you think our listeners should know about so they don't make the same mistake?
I'll say, and that's a personal mistake. I got excited so much that I wanted to do it very fast. And I believe that develop the culture, what I say, is not something that you develop in 1 week. It's not one speech. It's not two speeches. It's not 2 years. It's not 3 years. And it takes their time. So maybe to consolidate something, you have to be diligent and patient. And maybe you will take 4, 5, 6 years to really start consolidating and fine-tuning. And I would say that's having patience and diligence. And sometimes I wanted to do things fast.
Yeah, I know Tamara and I can would associate with that, and I'm sure lots of our listeners as well would as well. They often get they're enamored with the science and like, if we just do this, then it's going to have such a big difference. But then, like you say, that cultural journey, getting everyone else on board, aligned, actually incorporating this into the mission and how the company operates or institution operates, it takes time. You can't just do it overnight. So, patience, I think, is something I've had to learn over the years as well.
And within our ecosystem, 100%, we hire about 8,000 faculty. I'm sorry, 6,000 faculty. They're all adjuncts. So it's to have the proper training and try to engage them with the vision, engaging with the training, so they know that the most important thing is not their course, is the vision of the university, and of course, and the course, and the skills delivered there. So there are all challenges.
It's interesting, Hector, because it sounds to me like you have such a clear vision, and you've done the right thing. You've gone out and asked other people. You're not trying to reinvent the wheel. You're going out and saying, is there already a wheel? And okay, if there isn't, how do I build the wheel? So you've done So many things that I think our audience can learn from. I'm interested to know, and I've asked this question to some of our other guests, and I think you're perhaps going to have a little bit of a different take on it. So if it was working, if you got it right and you've connected your ecosystem to happiness and purpose and jobs outside, which obviously you're doing really well, how would you know? What would be when I walk into your school, what is it going to look and feel and sound like that I know that you've got this right?
That's a great question. You have to develop the strategies and the KPIs. We have to develop great KPIs. And I believe on the employability, we say one of the things that at universities we always talk in schools is high quality of education. We are serious about the quality of education. So we decided that quality of education, this is going to sound different. For us, it was going to be employment. The rate of employment, it was synonymous of quality of education. So if we do quality of education, 100 people should be working at graduation date. So we are not there yet. But we're 9 out of 10 are working at the graduation date. So that's one KPI. And that's there for sure. And it's public and it's there. The other thing is people knowing their purpose in life. 100% of them, they can express their purpose in life and make their own decisions based on the purpose in life. And that's one thing. We have to, 100% of the people take a course in wellbeing and happiness, and 100% of the students in every degree take a course in positive organizations. But they take the course. One of the things that was more difficult is how do you measure the well-being and happiness of the employees, faculty, and students. There are many ways to do that, but it's a lot of fluctuation in human life. So I will say that if we have an ongoing challenge today, how do you measure the best way to measure well-being and happiness? And of course, we have different tools to do it, but at a large scale, it's difficult because it's not. You cannot make an average. It's every individual. They may say, "Well, I'm happier. I recognize when I'm not happy as well." And I believe the awareness of people is great thanks to all the interventions we did. But one of the things, as you were saying, Jason, you couldn't get everything right. One of the things is, did you have a measurement to say, are people graduating happier? I cannot assure that. I can only assure that the people have the skills to understand their own emotions, to understand their character strengths, the skills to aim to be the best selves in every situation, and simple skills like saying what went well and to develop positive relations. I would say people have the skills.
Yeah.
I
I agree with you, Hector, because, measuring well-being is something that we do, right, as part of our business. But things like positive and negative affect can change so much. Like you say, it's up and down, up and down. And, at time of graduation, if you ask people, how happy are you or what's your life satisfaction, a lot of that, could be just that moment in time that maybe they're not feeling the best. And then it's lower than maybe when they commenced their education. But like you say, the skills around well-being, knowing how to improve how you feel, but also purpose, which is something that grounds us throughout life and keeps us motivated, keeps us on track, keeps us being resilient and pushing through during the hard times, because not everything's going to be easy and we're not always going to be feeling happy. Yeah. That's important. So I think you've got the right KPIs there, to what 100% of graduates should be able to explain their purpose, and 100% of graduates should have skills around how to build wellbeing when they need it. But just hoping that people will be happier, I don't think that's something that can be measured as an outcome.
And they recognize exactly the PERMA model of Martin Seligman's, and they recognize the mindfulness. It's important, and the mindfulness practice. They are taught, they receive skills, and they understand also that physical well-being, exercise, what you eat and sleep are important. So they know that.
Yeah.
And so that's all the students.
And I think that's a much better KPI than just saying, are people happier when they graduate? There's so many confounding variables, if you like, for why someone might be feeling happy on a certain day when they're asked. Yes.
So, Hector, you mentioned one great book to us. You talked about your purpose book. And since we're in the format of podcast, Jason and I usually like to ask our guests if you have some favorite podcasts or books or other resources that have helped you along on your journey.
And I like to read, listen to Adam Grant. And it's a great.
100% of our guests have said Adam Grant. It is so funny.
Yeah, Adam, if you're listening, we'd love to have you on the podcast at some point.
And the other one is Scott Galloway.
Oh, yeah.
Scott Galloway, he's a great thinker, and I believe those come to mind at this time. And of course, a great book that was inspiring for me and for many of the people that work at Tecmilenio is Man's Search for Meaning.
Viktor Frankl, yeah.
It's important that everybody should read that book. And it was inspiring for us as well.
Yeah, you're so right. I think it's very rare that I give a presentation that I don't talk about some aspect of that book.
One more person I admire, and I just sent me a message yesterday to Tal Ben-Shahar. Tal was from the beginning very close to Tecmilenio, and Tal was the great connector for us. And we invited him to Mexico. He gave a talk, and one of the things I really admire of Tal Ben-Shahar is the clarity of communicating different concepts of well-being and happiness. So he is very creative. He's a great communicator, and he makes these all concepts easy to understand to many other people in industry and also in schools. And of course, very grateful always to Marty Seligman and James Pawelski.
All great leads for people who are interested to learn more, to check out all of their books and all of the materials that they have. I love Tal Ben-Shahar's work as well.
One more center to really reach is the Center for Healthy Minds, directed by Richard Davidson at the University of Wisconsin. I believe that he has great resources. He's a great thinker and a great connector as well.
I love how you're lifting all of these people up, and I think that's something about our community, whether you consider us positive psychology or in the science of well-being, whatever it is, we really do lift one another and like to amplify what's going well. We all rise together, and I think that's so incredibly important. And I think that's a great way to end this episode of the Flourishing at School podcast. For those of you who are listening, I'm going to remind you that you can also watch us on the Flourish DX YouTube channel. And we will be sharing little preview snippets on our LinkedIn page. And both Jason and I are pretty active on LinkedIn. And I know you're over there, Hector. So our audience can connect with all of us over on LinkedIn and ask us any follow-up questions. And I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for giving us your time and your wisdom. You were so generous, and we will catch everyone on the next episode. Until then, keep flourishing at school and in life. Thank you, Hector.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Tamara. And thank you for your audience.
You've been listening to the Flourishing at School podcast. To stay up to date with the latest on whole school mental health, follow Flourish DX School on LinkedIn and subscribe to the Flourishing at School podcast at www.flourishingatschool.com.